The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Hello, this is Frank DeSorbo. The program is called Patriot Flight, honors veterans and military personnel. Capital District Patriot Flight is an organization that takes veterans down to Washington, D.C. for a day-long event to visit the war memorials down there. We go to the different memorials, start off at World War II, go to the Korean Memorial, Vietnam Memorial, Iwo Jima Memorial, and then to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. We provide the veterans with a lunch on the bus from Baltimore to the World War II Memorial. Then we conclude the day at a Golden Corral before we get on the airplane and come home. There's a special gift that's given to the veterans while we're in Washington at the World War II Memorial, and there's a special gift at the end. What you need to attend, we had our flight on May 16th. In the future, we plan on other flights. We have a very memorable send-off ceremony that's held at Christian Brothers Academy up by the airport. The cadets up there form their own little committee to put on that special event as a send-off ceremony. We have had a nice cooperation with CBA. Patriot Flight is an all-volunteer organization. I became involved and became the third president in January of 2014. We had 2 flights last year, and we hope to have 2 flights this year, another flight in the fall. However, as they say, freedom isn't free. Neither are these flights. We do have to raise money. We get it from donors. Different organizations raise money, and some organizations just send us money. I want to say to you that it is an effort. I understand there's a lot of organizations looking for funds. However, we're really proud and we want to continue this service. On our flight on May 16th, we had veterans from Vietnam, Korea, and World War II. And so we need your donations. Go on to our website. It's patriotflight.org. We're doing different things on there. We're revamping it. Or you want to send us something, or you want to contact us, send us a Patriot Flight at P.O. Box 190, Del Mar, New York. Or feel free to send me an email at FOMSERVICE. That's FOM Service. Find our military service at AOL.com. After all, that's really what Patriot Flight is doing, is finding our military service. Now, I've done somewhat of an introduction today, and as I said, Patriot Flight is really all about veterans and military people. I am sure you're going to enjoy this program, because I've met a veteran here only about 2 months ago. He's a Vietnam veteran, and he's been very inspirational and very good with me, and I have to say, Dave Vacca is a Marine from Vietnam. And what's really going to be memorable to me, he arrived in Vietnam the month that I turned 18. So I was, at that time, in the middle 60s, when things were going heavy. Dave was already over there, and I'd like to have this show, a nice conversation with Dave. And I'm going to introduce him as a Marine, and we're going to talk about his service, his life, and everything else. Hopefully you will find this very interesting. Dave, I'm going to turn it over a little bit to you.
Okay, thank you, Frank. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. My father worked in the Brooklyn Navy Yard during the Second World War. And after the war was over with, my family moved back to Schenectady, where everybody in my family is from. I graduated Mount Pleasant High School in 1961. And after that summer, I decided I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to go into the Marine Corps. I went in the Marine Corps on Valentine's Day, 1962. And my experiences in boot camp, I could sit here for the next 3 hours and probably tell you some stories. But after graduating from boot camp, I went to a school in Memphis, Naval Air Station in Memphis. And after that, I had a tour in Japan, and I had to come back after that. And then I decided I wanted to go back to Japan, so I extended my military career a year, but I wound up not going back to Japan. I wound up going a little place south called South Vietnam, Da Nang Air Base. And when I arrived, when they flew us in, we had to circle around because the Viet Cong were letting you know that they were in the area by throwing up some mortars and stuff. So when things cleared out, we landed, and as we were getting off the tarmac, they started again. So we had to look for cover, and I jumped into this pillbox, and his gunnery sergeant handed me a little card as I was in there. And the card is 9 rules of in-country. Rule number 1 I will never forget. Remember, at all times you are a guest in this country. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm a guest. So I spent 13 months and 2 days there. And it wasn't very nice. We were on the 1st Marine Aircraft Wing was on one side of the airstrip. Air Force was on the other side, and of course we had the perimeter guard also, being Marines. And when I tell people that I first arrived in Vietnam, I did not have a weapon for the first 2 months. Only the people that had weapons were the ones that were out on the perimeter for guard duty. Now you talk about supplies, not getting there on time and everything, it's just unbelievable. So as things got, after Christmas, it's 1965, supplies were catching up, we got well armed and everything, and we went out on patrols, and you've always heard the term baby killer. Well, I didn't consider myself a baby. I didn't shoot or kill anybody that wasn't trying to kill me. And I had one incident where 6 of us were out on patrol, walking 3 aside down a small dirt path, and there was this woman and a little kid walking towards us. And the little kid had a satchel on his back, and we all knew right away what it was. And you're yelling, halt, halt, and they just kept coming, so we opened fire. And lo and behold, they were loaded up with explosives. So that's just one little thing. But on a lighter side, I stole a Ringer washing machine off of the Air Force. My mother still had a Ringer washing machine in the cellar she was using. And we stole it off the Air Force, and I brought it back to the compound, and gee, it was really nice not to have your clothes washed in the rice paddies and beaten on rocks and everything else. But we only had it for a very short time because the lieutenant I worked for found out that we had it, and he confiscated it for the officers' quarters. We never saw it again. And when my time to come home, November the 10th, 1966, we left, which is the Marine Corps birthday, and they flew us to Okinawa a couple of days, and they try to acclimate you back to the world, supposedly. So I get home, we fly back, and we land at Travis Air Force Base in California, and get into the uniform of the day, because in those days you could fly half fare if you were in uniform. So I'm walking in the San Francisco International Airport to get my ticket and everything. I got my orders. And there's this young girl and young guy walking towards me. I didn't pay any attention to him. Now I'm in green uniform and I got my ribbons on and everything. And they got about 6 or 7 feet in front of me, and the girl spit on me. And I was shocked. I had never felt anything like that before. And my instinct, I grabbed her by the throat in one hand. I pushed her down on the floor, and I had her friend or whoever he was grabbed him, and I had them both down on the floor, and lo and behold, I think they might have saved my life. There was a shore patrol coming by, and they kind of saw what happened, and they rushed over. And they said, "Sergeant, let him go. Let him go, because we will have to arrest you for assault and battery if you don't." And they did. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is my welcome home after 13 months in a place that God forgot. So, you know, that kind of stuck in my mind. All these years, I've often wondered whatever happened to that young couple.
You know, I got to kind of interrupt you because as you're speaking, you know, you went through a fast 13 months in Vietnam. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And here, 50 years later, okay, you're speaking about it. Naturally, I know how I felt during that period with protesters. I have two brothers who were in Vietnam. I didn't go into service. But I know how I felt with the protesters. It was almost like, leave me alone. I just as soon forget you're here. I wish you'd disappear. But here, you're telling a story 50 years later what actually happened. Let me ask you how you felt back then and how you feel today, 50 years later.
Back then, it was a shock. I mean, in late 66 and going into 67 was the starting period of the one side of the country here, the other side of the country here. And you kind of got in the middle of it, and I'm thinking, oh, gee, why are they picking on me? I just was doing what I was told and everything, you know. So, but 50 years later, I can see both sides of the story today. I just wish that had never happened. I'm probably not the only Vietnam vet that came home and walked into something like that. But I only had 3 months to do in the service after I got back from Vietnam. And I was thinking of making a career in the Marine Corps, but I wanted to be guaranteed 2 years stateside, and which wasn't going to happen, so I got out.
You got out.
I got out. Yeah.
Well, the reason I ask you is 50 years later, I know how I still feel about that, all that, the embarrassment to our country. Also, how I felt about some of those people running off to Canada and all their justifications and what they believe, well, I got the right to say what I say. What they don't have the right to do is change the way I feel.
Right.
And I can say to you, I kind of was in between, and luckily I listened to a veteran in World War II who was on a destroyer. And I was working construction. He was a bricklayer foreman, and he took me under his wing. And although I was only 18 years old, no skill, I wanted to be a CB. So you know what the CBs do.
Right.
And I at the time of all that protesting, I just turned around. I was totally like a rebel. I wanted to go into service. I wanted to learn something, but I didn't want to, get drafted. As a matter of fact, during my 18 and 19, the Marines started drafting.
Yeah.
You volunteered, I take it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they started drafting. Well, this buddy of mine kept saying, "You want to learn something, then go to college." And he even was a little more aggressive than that to what he used to say to me. However, I can always say that those protesters and all that stuff they did, it was just so disgusting. And I have spoken to a lot of World War II veterans who say, and the Korean War veterans say, you guys are the ones who really deserve the welcome home. When we do our Patriot flights, you guys deserve it. Because they always say, it depends on where we live. Most of us came home. I know a couple veterans said, the father, the first father said when he walked in the door, get a job, back to work. I think in a way we can, but then what you guys ran up against, you come back from the war and you get that, and then you got to go looking for a job, and then in your stomach how you really feel. Well, I'd like to say that you are recognized today. And I'm sure you've run across a little different feeling.
Yes, I have run across that today. It's a lot better than it was and everything. And a lot of people will walk up to you, like when I wear a military hat or something, they'll walk up to you and say, thank you for your service. Mm-hmm. They don't know me from Adam.
Right.
But the first 25 years I was out of the military, like till 1990, I never thought much of it. I tried to put it back in the back of my head, never thought anything about it or anything until 1990. I went to my first military reunion down in Washington, D.C. And there was about 400 to 500 people there. And talking to all those guys and everybody, you know, I said, well, I'm thinking, gee, you know, I should be proud of what I did. And I should be out more forward to it. Well, this coming May, I'll be going to my 15th reunion. We have them every 18 months to 2 years. So I've met some very nice people. Matter of fact, I met a really nice guy. And at one time, he was a crew chief on HMX-1, which is the presidential helicopter. And he was shot down twice in Vietnam. Second time was real bad. He was in a naval hospital for 18 months. And he was, I got to know him pretty good. And
that kind of leads me to something my brother ran into. He was just like you, frontline combat, 9th Infantry Division. I just found out here, he came after you in Vietnam. I just found out that he says, oh, I was the guy who hung out the helicopter with my legs hanging out. I was the last one on the helicopter and the first one off. And he has a tendency to talk about a lot of the humorous and survival kinds of things. He said he jumped off the one time and got stuck in the mud. The rest of the guys had to come and pull him out. And he tells a few other things that are kind of comical, and I always like to talk to the veterans because as much as the tragedy and stuff, and I don't want to resurrect that, but between all the tragedy, there was humor, there was human interest.
Yeah, there was.
And I always like to hear, you know, the humorous stuff, provided you can talk on TV about it, you know.
oh, yeah. Yep. I'm trying to think now.
I got
At Christmas time, 1965, my mother sent me my favorite cake for Christmas. Sent it air partial post, everything. Well, it's 50 years later and I'm still waiting for it. Still waiting for it. Now, my birthday, the following April, my father had a barbershop out in Glenville, and he got to know some of the pilots in the 109th Air National Guard out there. And, you know, hey, do you ever fly to Vietnam? Oh, yeah, we haul stuff over there all the time. I got a son that's stationed over there, and would you mind bringing something over? Yeah, so my mother made another cake. So, 24 hours later, when they started out here in Glenville, I get a message to report to Air Force Operations, and I'm thinking, what does Air Force Operations want with me? So I go over, I get in the Jeep and I go over, and this major gets off the airplane and he says, here, I got a gift for you for your birthday from home. So I take it and I open it up and it's the cake. And one can of Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. Now it's about 110 in the shade, right? That beer was so warm, it wasn't funny. Matter of fact, I got back to my tent. I opened up the can of beer, I got 2 mouthfuls of cake when incoming started to come in. So we had to hightail it to the bunker. So after it was over with, my tent was completely destroyed by a direct hit. No cake, no beer, nothing. So, you know, that's the human side humorous side of things.
You know, when you say it's a humorous side, sometimes you ever think that the angels are watching you? They got a direct hit?
I know the angels are watching me because of the fact, when I got issued my dog tags before we left to go over there, dog tags have a notch on the one end of them in case you're KIA'd. They stick it in your mouth and it holds it in place in your teeth. My dog tags didn't have a notch. So I'm thinking, somebody up there is watching me.
Yeah.
I got them at home, I still have them. Yeah. Somebody up there is watching over me.
Yeah.
I'm lucky, one of the lucky ones. Number one, I didn't come back in a body bag. And number two, I didn't get hurt while I was over there.
You no wounds at all?
Nope, no wounds per se facing the enemy. I only got one. I got 2 stitches under my chin here from a warm bottle of San Miguel beer that I dropped and it exploded and the cap came up underneath my chin. It cut me and I'm bleeding all over the place.
You know, it's interesting that you talk about the beer over there and it's so hot, so it never could be cold then.
Nah, there was no place to keep it.
No, right.
Nowhere to have it. You had to drink it, you know, whatever beer you could get your hands on. I mean, you know.
One of the stories I had heard, and my brother, again, I've got letters that he wrote to me still at home. And at this event, and I've got that, let me jump back a little bit because I've known you only about 2 months. I met you at that TG, thank God it's veterans at the Gateway Diner. We're there every Friday from 8 to about noon, and veterans drop in. And as Dave will see and has found out, different people show up. There are a few that are regulars, really enjoy it, getting together. We tell people, just drop in, you know.
Yep.
You know, you want a cup of coffee or a bagel or eat your breakfast there. And it's a separate room in the back. It's called the Veterans Room. Dave, I've only met a couple months ago. Let me ask you, and you had heard about that room someplace?
I saw it in the paper. There was a picture that was taken of that. There was about, I don't know, 15 of you in the picture. And the caption underneath says, you know, it's a veterans meeting, you know, every Friday morning they meet for breakfast and talk and everything. And then almost every Friday I'm there almost 3 hours. I mean, the time flies. Yeah. And you're talking to World War II vets, Korean War vets, and Vietnam vets, especially the World War II vets. There's a couple of them that landed in Normandy on D-Day. I mean, you know, there couldn't have been any bloodier bath than that. But it's very interesting and I enjoy it wholeheartedly. And it's kind of gotten me out of the shell of kind of hiding my feelings towards my time in the military and everything. I mean, you talk and discuss things with other vets.
You know,
it's the greatest thing in the world.
You've really brought out something, because I've got more than a few compliments about how well you do. After all, you are a little imposing. What are you, about 6'5"?
I'm 6'5", yeah.
Yeah, and I seen the photos of you when you come out of the service. So I can understand why you can grab two people by the throat and put them down. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But aside from, as I was going to say about my brother, and he was in the Army, you're in the Marines, and there's always this talk about, you know, the Army, the Marines, and everything else. Well, I've got a very good friend who was in the Army, and the ironic part is he was in the 9th Infantry Division at Normandy, and then he fought in the Battle of St. Lo. He also fought in the Battle of the Bulge, and he crossed the bridge into Germany over the Remagen Bridge. He got wounded 3 times, and so my brother and the two of them, the camaraderie amongst them, and I don't have that. As much as I appreciate being around you, there is that camaraderie among veterans. Now, the two of them were in the 9th Infantry Division, and my brother told me something here. It is 45 years since he was in Vietnam. He was towards the tail end. He was one of the first troops withdrawn, and he told a story about how I knew he never got wounded. He come home. I remember him telling us he had jock rash. Okay, but then he said somebody asked him at the one event that we had over there, when you seen the picture, that's when we dedicated the room. He says, I get hit twice, but it didn't break the skin. And he said it so casual, and that's how sometimes I find you guys. Some of the stuff that you guys did and lived through, it's like I did my duty, you know. And so I say that you're really an inspiration, and yet there's that camaraderie and that spirit and that conversation that you have with each other. Have you ever run across some of your buddy? You were a sergeant, so you had how many people under you?
I had, when I did make sergeant, I had about 14 people under me.
And that was over in Vietnam?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I was 22 years old when I went over there. You know, I was a kid, really. Mm-hmm. I had 3.5 years in the Marine Corps already, but I was 22 years old, and this lieutenant that wound up my OIC was straight out of OCS in Quantico, and he was younger than I was. And here I was, 22. He graduated college when he was 20 and a half, went to OCS, and you know, he was younger than I was. I was 22 and a half, and he wasn't even 22 yet, not quite. And a lot of young kids. I mean, it was just unbelievable. They say the average age of a Vietnam vet while they were over was 19.
I was going to say, you were an older
And
one.
I was an older one.
Yeah.
You know? But it was just simply amazing. You don't
Have you ever run
realize.
into any of those guys? Have you ever see anybody that when you were in Vietnam?
I have been. This will be my 15th reunion that I will be going to at the end of May. I have actually not met anybody I served with over there, but there are guys there that are going to their first reunion. They're there 5 minutes and they run in 2-3 people that they served over there with. But I did at one reunion, 2009, when we had it down in Paris Island, where the boot camp is. I ran into a guy that was in my platoon when we went through boot camp. And he, Silver Star recipient, Bronze Star recipient, 2 Purple Hearts. He was with 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines over there, and they had part of the compound around Da Nang. And he saw some bad stuff.
Well,
I mean, anybody that served over there actually saw a lot of bad stuff. But I do have, I'd like to read this poem, which I have done in the past at other things.
take your time, and I've heard it. It's
And-
great.
yeah, right.
It's great.
It's not very long, but to me, this poem fits the Vietnam vet 100%, right to the T. And it's called Vietnam Vets. We were soldiers sent to a foreign land. We followed the orders of those in command. We were young boys full of life in a strange land of death and strife. Soon each boy became a man, fighting the enemy hand to hand. We were heroes, not at all. Our heroes are written on the wall. We were captured, killed, maimed, as we fought the enemy under different names. We did not turn tail and flee as we fought for the land of the free. We came home with smiles on our faces, only to be looked upon with shame and disgrace. We were called various names and spat upon. This was our welcome home. Because we were combat vets, our war at home was the worst yet. We are proud of our service rendered. Remember, it was Washington that surrendered. Although the years have come and gone, we still haven't received our welcome home. We served our country by doing our best. We will forever be brothers and Vietnam vets. And this poem is 5 years old, but I think things have gotten in the last 5 years have gotten a lot better of welcoming home the Vietnam vet. I mean, I've been to the wall down there several times in Washington. Matter of fact, I was there in 1982, shortly after it opened. And you would be surprised at the number of people that just come up to you and say thank you and welcome home.
Well, I got to say
it's just unbelievable.
I really got to say thank you.
Thank you.
I can tell you, being in the family, knowing what my mother went through, and maybe at times I was the rebel renegade while they're off to war, I will say thank you so much. And we at Patriot Flight are going to do what we can do, because we're taking Vietnam vets. We have taken them on our May 16th flight, and we plan on doing some special things in the fall. And we know that already the waiting list that we have is mostly Vietnam vets. The World War II guys are dying off. There aren't that many left, yet some of them are amazing at 93, 94, and 95. So we hope we make it to 93, 94, 95.
I would love to.
And I think you're going to have a younger group of veterans taking over Patriot Flight at some point and recognizing you, because you guys really deserve it. The welcome home that you didn't get, we're going to do what we can to make sure you do get it. I will say that the whole concept of what you went through in that period, and it wasn't just, it's the country and all you guys,
Right.
you know, maybe can be forgotten on one part and yet remembered to the deepest on the other. I think the country has found out that taking it out on the warrior isn't the answer.
No.
You know, it's not the answer. I have to really say to you that the compassion I have for you guys, and it is a compassion and a respect for you, because I lived through that generation. Right. And when I talk to the World War II guys and the Korean War guys, what they say about you guys, you should really be proud. Really should be.
You know, the 60s and the early 70s, this country was really, really in a bad turmoil. I mean, now it's two generations later, a lot of people don't realize actually what the country was going through at that time. And it's just amazing that that it went that way.
Let's, in a way, let's just turn, and if hopefully we only got a few more minutes, but I was telling you before about my brother being in the Army. You're a Navy guy.
Yeah.
A very interesting story. I went and told my 90-year-old buddy who was in the Army that the Marines always said, well, the Army wasn't, this way, and Marines were that way. And he gave an interesting analysis. He'll be 90 this summer. He says, well, you go back and talk to the Marines and ask them if they know how to stop a bullet. And it kind of is a comical reaction from an 89-year-old man who really says, you guys share an awful lot. The fact that they say the combat veteran has 14, 15 people behind you doing support operations, but you're out there seeing something that nobody else sees.
Right.
And I think that camaraderie amongst yourselves, the combat vets, especially, is some bond that I myself recognize when you sit down at a table and you're around them. I don't want to say, too bad I'm not a combat vet, but I really see it when I like to listen to you, when you talk, and I've been around the D-Day guys like that too. And so I really say to you, I'm glad that you're coming out to the TGIV. It's good to get you out. I had you out for the interviews we do over at CBA with the 7th and 8th graders. This here serves almost as a little oral history for yourself.
My family can't believe what I'm doing, coming out like this. My wife and my two kids and the rest of my family and everything, they're behind me 2,000%. They didn't think I would ever do anything like this. And especially when my 9-year-old grandson comes up to me, and he's at the stage now where he will ask you some questions.
Yeah.
And he starts out, he says, Papa, I'm glad. He says, I'm glad you're a veteran, because he probably doesn't really know what it means.
Right.
So when he asks questions, you got to stop and think. How are you going to answer this, whereas he can understand it?
Right.
So I have answered his questions, and he seems to gather it all in and everything. So. But it's not like I bring it up all the time unless he brings it up. I don't bring it up.
No.
So, but Papa, I'm proud you're a veteran.
That's great.
You don't know how much that makes.
Now, how many children you got?
I got two. I got a boy and a girl.
A boy and a girl. How about the grandchildren?
Just the one boy, and that's it. There won't be any others.
Oh, okay.
There won't be any others.
And what did you do for a living after you got out of service?
When I got out of the Marine Corps, I bummed around for a few months, and I finally took the test for the post office. And I took the test, and I got a high grade. And this was in the middle of 1968.
Okay.
And, after the test results were out, within a month, I got a call from the Albany post office to go to work. And the first thing that you filled out on the application, your military history and everything. Well, my military was over with. I was great as far as they were concerned, because they weren't going to have to lose me to the draft or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I carried mail in Albany for 30 years.
No kidding.
Last 10 years, I had a route here in Loudonville.
Oh.
And I retired at 55. And
oh, God. Life is good. What do you do now? What do you do now? Like, come on, don't be, I know what you do, so don't be afraid to tell me.
Well, during the good weather, I play golf. I like to play golf.
Good. We're going to play on
Not very good, but I like to play.
Golf courses don't survive on the guys that are really good. They survive on us.
That's very true. And, since this past Christmas, I go to the Y almost every day, walking. Because I have a 30% disability from the VA because of Agent Orange, which is a whole different ball game and story and everything. I mean, our government lied about it and everything, but That's the here and there. And yard work, everything.
No, come on now. You and I have talked about the casinos, and
Well, yeah,
we all enjoy that.
I like my favorite game, like I told you, is blackjack, and my wife will verify it. She likes to go to the casinos too.
You're lucky.
And
You got a wife that wants to go.
yeah, she does. She likes to play blackjack too. But, and we go, we enjoy it. Matter of fact, when you guys go to the flight in May, we're going to be down in Wildwood. That's our week. We go over there every year.
Oh.
And we'll be making a couple of side trips to Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So,
Now, my wife used to enjoy going. Now as she got older, she
I
don't.
like the horses a little bit. And I spent
next
some
week.
time in Saratoga in
Next
summertime. So
Kentucky Derby. You go to
Kentucky Derby
Saratoga.
this Saturday.
Yeah.
It's a biggie. So
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
My buddy who's 90 had a tough winter, and he says he's not interested. That's how I got to know him, going to OTB. Ran into him through a friend, and I used to say to him, I can't go to the OTB 3 days in a row. I says, you get in there, and if we were used to go to one on Central Avenue, and there's no windows. And I go,
Right.
no, I can't. Even now, the new one they built, I go, 2 days is enough in a row. But I'm more than busy with Patriot Flight, D-Day Revisited, TGIV. I enjoy it, and I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to a lot of different things down the road. The reason I chuckle with you, you golf, huh? I'll get you on the course I do, a par 3 course, which sounds like it's my speed, but it has water holes.
Yeah.
And I think they were putting in sand traps last year.
Okay.
And that's my speed to start.
Yeah.
That's how I warm up in the bullpen. I've got to say that this has been I can't believe how time has gone by. I don't know about you. And I'm gonna say, I've got to conclude by saying this is the kinds of things we want to do on the Patriot Flight honors veterans and military people. Now, veterans are the ones that were in. The military people are the ones that are still in. We are going to work a variety of different things. One of the best things since I've taken over Patriot Flight is to find people and events that are out of the ordinary. We want to explore taking, other than airplane flights. Found a lot of World War II and Korea War guys, they don't like to fly. And I think I know why, because maybe the planes they flew in 60 and 70 years ago are not the ones they want to fly. That's what they got as a memory. But I want to say I really thank you for coming. I really appreciate for what you've done.
My pleasure.
I thank you so much. And the fact that you get out, I want to get out with you because I'm not much of a blackjack. I want to teach you how to play craps.
Okay.
We'll have a few laughs. You can have a lot of laughs. Make sure
I had a son-in-law that tried to teach us how to play craps, and in less than 5 minutes, my bankroll was gone.
He wasn't a good
no,
teacher.
thank you. No, thank you.
He wasn't a good teacher. I even got a felt at home to show you. So we'll fool around. I just do. I said to my son one time, I take a few $100s, and to me that's gaming. If I was to take a few thousand, then it becomes gambling.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll have a good time together. The events that are coming up for us,
Yep.
and I hope you come. And I don't know what else I can get you
Probably
into.
there.
We'll shock your family, get you into something else. So what I want to do in concluding is to thank Dave Vacca. You've heard much about him, what he's been through, what he's like, and who knows, maybe a year from now we'll be up here talking again. We'll talk about our golf, and maybe we'll win some money for Patriot Flight.
There you go.
I want to say thank you so much for listening and watching. We plan on doing another one in about a few weeks from now. Well, no, it's getting pretty hectic time of the year, but we'll schedule something. Thank you so much for watching.